Well, hello. This is the Dirr garden again. We had a couple videos back in the spring, baptisia and a few other things, and many of you showed interest, and we appreciate it. It's actually Thanksgiving Day of 2024, November 28th, and I think all of us are blessed to, number one, be in this country and be with our families, and we're going to celebrate later on with the relatives. But it was such a beautiful sunny day today, and the fall color has just kind of jumped in the last week or so. We had an extremely warm fall. We're in Bogart, Georgia. We're in zone 8A, and there really didn't look like there was going to be any color. Then a few high 30s, low 40 nights have really triggered the response. As most of you know, they talk about warm sunny days and cool nights in the fall, kind of kill the chlorophyll and trigger the anthocyanins, which are the reds, the purples, and then there's also some other carotenoids that xanthophylls that contribute to the yellowish color. So we're going to walk you through the garden today, as long as we can. The mic works, and kind of share with you some of the best fall coloring trees. And it's often very difficult to get good fall color in our part of the world, simply because it's so warm. It's warm. I mean, you know, I'm talking about the end of November, and we're looking at the kind of the peak of fall color. The tree in back of me is Quercus acutissima. It's called Sawtooth oak. It's native to China, and this is all part of the trees that you're looking at, or will be looking at in this little area, part of the pollinator garden, which you've seen before in our baptisia video. These were planted in 2017. They were all in 3-gallon containers, and the tree behind me is now about 25 feet tall, maybe close, more, I'd say approximately almost 30 feet tall. And what's nice about this, the new growth comes out in the spring. It's yellow, golden, goes to green, shiny dark green, persists, drought tolerant, heat tolerant, cold tolerant, all the way to, I went to school at the University of Massachusetts in Amherst, and on our campus there's a giant, still a giant, that was 40 years ago, 50 years ago when I graduated from there. Anyway, there was a giant Quercus acutissima, which is still extant, still there. So some people do not like this tree. I think it's perfectly formed without pruning, and the fall color obviously is a good golden yellow, and it holds for a long period of time. This is another Chinese native tree. It's a parrotia, and many of you are familiar with parrotia persica. Well, this is parrotia subequalis. It's Chinese ironwood or parrotia. It came into this country. It has been in this country this long. It's just now kind of coming into commerce, and I have about 4 plants in the garden. And every year, regardless of what the preconditioning is, temperature-wise, sunlight-wise, rainfall-wise, this always turns a beautiful maroon red, and often as it matures even further, it goes to an orange red. Trees about 20 or 30 feet tall. And what's quite amazing about this, and it's cold hardy, it's actually more cold hardy than parrotia persica, which can be grown all the way to Chicago and Boston. So it has a wide adaptability range. It's been extremely heat tolerant. In fact, they're growing it in Hawkinsville, Georgia, which is about 120 miles south of Atlanta. So you're getting close to zone 8B, and with no difficulty at all. It's extremely wind firm. It's actually withstood hurricane force winds, while parrotia persica was actually bent over in nursery production fields. And the bark will eventually, it's not quite there yet, develop the same sort of quilted patchwork, sort of jigsaw puzzle bark. It's been easy to root from cuttings. It grows fast, and as I said, it's gradually getting commercialized. Parrotia subequalis, Subeaequalis, the Chinese parrotia. This is another parrotia species. This is parrotia persica, the Persian parrotia, or Persian ironwood, native to northern Iran, and then I think it runs into some of the other stands that are actually, no, I guess it would be north of Iran as we know it. And you can see again, good fall colors. Never as vivid, at least I've never had it as vivid as the Chinese parrotia, which we just showed you. These are seedlings, and as Katie takes an overview, which you'll see in a second, they're different colors. Some are more orange, some are yellow. And the leaves hold late on parrotia in general, both the species that I mentioned. The leaves are frost tolerant to at least 20 degrees before they're actually killed. And that's why they develop such good fall color over a long period of time. They simply don't emphasize or fall off with the first frost, which often is a characteristic of a maple, for example, where the leaves are pretty much gone if it gets too cold. So again, it's easy to grow, it's heat tolerant. So a plant from Chicago to Atlanta, Georgia, it has not many, but several cultivars. One called Vanessa, which we may see a little later on. Kate and I did a little video on Vanessa, just a single profile of Vanessa, Parrotia persica Vanessa, which is an upright form, which turns a bright golden yellow. So leaves out early in the spring. Actually, the bees love the flowers. They're apetalous, or little maroon flowers that are borne along the length of the stems. It starts flowering typically in March. You'll see bee activity. The leaves pop out by late March. Again, we're in Bogart, Georgia, zone 8A, and the leaves hold late. So this thing actually has leaves for, I'd say, almost 8-9 months of the year. If you carry it from when it first leaves out in March all the way through until, which will be in December, there'll still be some leaves on the trees. So this is a wonderful plant for any part of the country. It can be pruned if you want to make it into a tighter specimen or a hedge or something. You can do it very, very easily, and it's parrotias are pretty much widely available. You might have to go to a specialist mail order nursery, but if you look, you can find a Parrotia persica, Persian parrotia. What you're looking at is I call a little arboretum area. Every tree in here was either grafted, rooted from cuttings, or grown from seed. The first trees were planted in 2017, and obviously I didn't space them perfectly, but there's a cornucopia, if that's a good word, array of there's sugar maples, there's lacebark elm. Behind me is a metasequoia, a dawn redwood. I'm looking at you to my right, you'll see a dogwood cornusflora. Even further right, as Katie pans, is a Quercus shumardii, and I'll kind of walk down and point this out. It's just starting to turn fall color. It's kind of a, russet red or red brown right now, but I actually collected acorns out of a Home Depot parking lot, and I saw this brilliant red fall colored tree, and I walked over, and there were acorns rolling around on the ground. And of course, I was dressed in my familiar outfit that you see. And so I started picking up acorns. And people would drive by and they look at me and they say, "Are you okay?" And they almost started throwing McDonald's coupons out the window as I continued to collect acorns. So I grew many seedlings and selected one and put it in the garden. What's amazing about this is this tree was planted in 2017. It would have been in a 3-gallon container and probably about my height, 6 feet tall, 4, 5, 6 feet tall. And look at the growth of it now. It's easily, I would say, 30 feet tall. And it's been reliable for fall color every year. So if you see a seed, an acorn, or anything, easy to do. Collect the acorns, float them to see if they sink. If they sink, they're probably viable. Plant them in, we use pine bark, a 3-gallon bucket. Plant 5 to 10 acorns per bucket, cover them up about an inch, and make sure you cover them or protect them from any kind of varmint or rodent or squirrel that might decide they want to collect your nuts. And the next year, typically in April, they start to pop up. And the first year, I let them grow until they get whatever size, 12, 18 inches. Then I take the second year, I repot them into a 3-gallon container, one per container. And the result is what you see here. And you got to look at this. We're in the end of 24, so about 7, 8 years later, we're looking at a 30-foot tree. And the best thing about it, it cost me nothing except my pride when somebody said, "Are you okay, sir?" You're looking at a, excuse me, a ginkgo biloba, and common ginkgo. This is one of Bonnie, my wife's favorite trees. And we had one and we lost it. I had it in soils that were far too wet. And so we got another one. This is one that actually I introduced to the University of Georgia. It's called Presidential Gold. Found it in front of the president's former house on Prince Avenue. We sent scionwood. Scionwood is this little piece of stem that Katie might take a photo of, about this big, to Smith Nursery on the West Coast. They budded it, grafted it, and grew it on. And said, "This looks pretty good, Mike. It's compact. It has density to the branching. It has good fall color. The summer foliage is dark green." And they said, "Can we introduce it?" I said, "Well, it belongs to the university, so if you're going to share royalties or trademark it, it needs to go through University of Georgia," which they did. They put the name on because presidential gold, because of gold fall color, and it came from the president's house. And this is what a small tree looks like. It actually looks like a full tree. Most ginkgos look, I call them alley cat trees. It looks like they've been in a fight. About six alley cats have been wrestling with each other. The tails are going everywhere. Branches are going everywhere. In this case, you can see it's dense, it's reliable, it's a male, so you don't have to worry about the so-called, some people call them fruits, they're actually naked seeds, which when they drop and then they ferment, they're extremely stinky. So if anybody's looking for a ginkgo for their garden or whatever it happens to be, I think this is a really good choice. There are many, 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 many ginkgo cultivars. And I was told by Keith Warren, who was the former breeder and grower for 40 years at Smith Nursery, that this was one of the best that he's ever seen come through their program at Smith Nursery in Boring, Oregon. Katie and I keep moving about the garden. We're kind of like squirrels looking at nuts. There's one over here, one over here, one over here. And that's the way it is with fall color right now. It's so consistent around the garden, you don't know which tree to hit next. But this is Cornus, Florida. It's a flowering dogwood, a common flowering dogwood, obviously a Eastern United States, Southeastern native. And this is one of the best. This is Appalachian Joy. And so Cornus, Florida, cultivar Appalachian Joy. When Reagan was in the White House, dogwoods were dying from distula or anthracnose. He got nervous. I think he actually saw this at Camp David in the woods and said, "What's going on?" And they pumped some money into the Forestry Service, and I think it was spread among like several universities. But the University of Tennessee worked on breeding and selecting disease-resistant clones or cultivars. They named this particular group the Appalachian series. There's like Appalachian Joy, Blush, Mist. There's about 6. There may be some others since this time, but I really like Joy. I've got the 2 other plants that I've got around the garden. It's been consistent we've been in this garden for 15 years. This part of the garden is in an adjoining lot, which is probably 12 years in the ground. The foliage, as Katie may be able to get a close-up here, we'll take a close-up, is clean all the way into, obviously, November and fall. You don't see leaf spot. It flowers consistently every year. We'll have some still photos to show you that. It does have the reddish sort of rugby ball-shaped fruit. And for my money, I think this is, if you're going to plant a dogwood, don't buy just a row-run seedling that you see at Walmart or whatever it happens to be, Home Depot or Lowe's or any other garden center. Try to get a good cultivar. The Appalachian series, Appalachian Blush is very good. I've grown that. And certainly Joy is one of my favorites. And just because it's one of my favorites doesn't mean it's the best thing going. But if you look at this over a period of time, which is now about 12 years, 10, 12 years in the ground, it's been magnificent, consistent every year, big broad spreading tree. And you're not always guaranteed to have a dogwood. I buy dogwoods, I have in the past, from mail ordered, pretty much Tennessee nurseries, and it doesn't make any difference where the nursery is. These are seedlings. You can buy them for a couple bucks. I buy 20, I plant them, and right now, we walked by it a little while ago. I have 1 left out of 20, so I lost 19. So I plant one of these. I know I have the opportunity or the possibility of keeping it in the garden and having it perform for a number of years. The fall color with dogwood, it's spring flower, which here is April. Fruits are pretty much September, October, November. The fall color, which you see now, is November. It will definitely shed by probably mid-December. And the bark is beautiful. It has that sort of alligator hide, rugged looking bark. So this is one of the best, and I recommend this and the other Appalachian series. You're looking at a Japanese maple. This is Sengokaku, or the coral bark Japanese maple. And a lot of people think Japanese maples are fragile. They don't persist over time. I've got at least 30 cultivars in the garden. Coach Dooley, who passed away a couple Octobers ago, had over 100, and he just loved Japanese maples. His garden is just magnificent in the fall. And I think it's a tree that gets short-sheeted by some garden people, and it probably shouldn't. If it can do what this has done, this will be a 15-year-old plant you're looking at. This would have been planted first year in the house, in the garden itself. And Sengokaku has a coral stems, especially the younger stems, and has a magnificent, in my opinion, sort of orangey red, yellow orange red fall color. It's up and down every year. It's always good. It doesn't. This, I would say, it's more orange red this year than typical, but it's one of the best. Also, another one we're going to look at in a second. It's called Seiryu, Seiryu. And Seiryu is a green leaf form. This is also a green leaf form. And I will show you a purple leaf form I think is probably the best, at least for holding its color and good fall color in our part of the world where we sit in Zone 8A. But Japanese maples, there's hundreds of possibilities, and I've tried many. In fact, Katie and I will walk you to a little population I bought. I purchased 19 different Acer palmatum. Some of them I already had in the garden last year, 5 of each. Potted them up in December of last year. Grew them in, this is a standard 3-gallon container. I'd like to share this with you a little bit, the concept. I paid $15.50 a piece for them. And they came in, they were all grafted. They're all name clones. You see we got a label on them. You also got a label in the bucket. And to show you what kind of root system you can get if you take care of them. They bare root when they came in. We fertilized them once with a fertilizer called Harrell's. It's a slow release fertilizer. It lasts 8 to 9 months, 15% nitrogen, about 5-6% phosphorus, and maybe 10% potassium. That's it. Obviously, I wanted to grow them on for a year and let them get a good root system, which Kitty is showing you. And now I have to dig. I think I have, of the 19, I think I got 16 left. I gave a bunch away, or actually what I did was say, hey, help yourself. And what happened is they really helped themselves. All the cut leaf forms are pretty much gone, but you can see the growth, pretty good growth in a year. And you know, in another 15 years, if I live that long, they'll be like the Sengokaku you just looked at a second ago. But if you were to go to buy this in the average garden center, you'd be paying somewhere between, I'd say, $79 and $129. So for $15.50 and a little patience, I saved a lot of money. This is going to go in a woodsy area under pine trees. I'm going to create, the goal is to create kind of a Japanese maple forest. And at least that's the goal. And we'll see what happens 5 years down the road or 10 years down the road. So exciting. I think gardeners, I like to always sort of mention, we live in the future. We have great hope. If I didn't have hope, I'm 80 years old, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. So I got to dig 16 holes to keep that hope going. And I see Sengokaku in here. I got Hefner's red. I mean, there's so many. There's purple leaf types. There's green leaf types. There's Katsura. If you don't know Katsura, it's one of the best. It's Ktsura. Comes out with kind of a golden color, yellow color. Goes to green and then has a good orangey fall color. Nice vigorous tree. Very, very beautiful. But, you know, as I said, there's probably too many Japanese maples. But then I don't think you can ever have enough. If you got the room, go for it. We're looking at another Japanese maple, and I mentioned this before when I was talking about Sengokaku and some of the others. This is Seiryu, the one I spelled it out for you, Seiryu. I think this is one of the best Japanese maples, at least for zone, I'd say 7 and 8. We've actually put it in a landscape or a highway landscape planting, and it's held up well. I've got them situated all over the garden, and this is an understory under oaks and under bigger maples. And it's a dissected green leaf form that develops this beautiful, I would say, maroon red fall color. Some years better than others. This year is pretty terrific. And very fine, feathery, dissected foliage that I just think is elegant. I've grown numerous seedlings of this, and I've got a few dissected forms back. I was looking for a tree type purple leaf, and there are no, that I know of, any tree type purple leaf dissected Japanese maple. So I keep looking. I have got the green, very fine feathered, textured cut leaf seedlings back, but nothing purple leaf yet that looks exactly like the green form, which you're looking at, which is Seiryu. So the other thing about Japanese maples is Katie kind of pans through the woods here. You'll probably see some tinges of purple or red. Japanese maples are great in the shade. They're great in the sun. And they really show when there's very few trees that are going to give you this kind of understory fall color. So that's another reason to consider them. And their sizes from literally small little Rhode Island red types up to tree types. Sengokaku probably would be one of the bigger. I've seen Sengokaku 30 feet tall. So you got a range of sizes that you can kind of mesh into your landscape to fit almost any space. Katie's taking an overview shot of an area that's down by a drainage ditch, actually, and I blocked it off to the right with various broadleaf evergreens, and then I interspersed Japanese maples. And the one on the right is one called Nurasagi. It's Nuasagi, I believe. And I was told many years ago that was one of the best for holding red summer leaf color. And indeed it does. It also has magnificent fall color, as you can see, brilliant red actually, and it's in heavy shade. We're on actually on the east side of a big tree line, And I don't think this thing sees much sun during the day. You see a little bit peeking through the foliage as you move forward. Katie and I are going to walk forward. You see a dissected type that has sort of a golden orange or yellow orange foliage. This is a cut leaf form that actually I gave to Coach Dooley many years ago. I had a bunch of seedlings, and he called it Dirr throwaway. I'd give him plants, and he just put, say, Dirr throwaway. And I saw the thing many years later. I said, Coach, can I have some cyanwood? Can I grow it? And I grafted. He said, help yourself. So we grafted some, and it's absolutely a beautiful dissected form. It's somewhat like waterfall or viridis. It's a green leaf form, but it's been consistent for fall color and also good heat tolerance in our part of the world. And we're looking at another Japanese maple, and I just want to point out that even seedlings can have wonderful fall color. You don't have to necessarily buy a clone. And this is just a seedling with pretty orangish red fall color. And if Katie comes in a little closer, I'll show you a little trick here while we're videoing. And okay, you can take a picture of my hand, but these are the fruits. It's called a samara. And I've already collected fruits, and then you might actually be interested in growing your own. The easiest way to do this is to sow the seed in a flat and put it outside in a big plastic container like you might store clothes in or something. Monitor it for moisture, let it sit, and when you see the seeds pop up, which they will, typically in April, May, at least in this part of the world, you can move it to a greenhouse or move it to some sort of warm place in your house. And you'll have a great time. The seeds are, some are void, but many are sound and will actually produce a seedling. Something you should do before you actually sow the seed is float it. And float it for about, or say, 24 to 48 hours. And that makes sure the seed has absorbed water and the germination process will start. So that's a quick intro to Japanese maple seed production. Katie and I thought we might be the best idea to homeschool you on Japanese maple seed propagation. So this is the tub I was mentioning before when we were talking about the seedling Japanese maple. And you can buy these for $10 at almost any store. Home Depot has them. Everybody has them. Costco has them. And the way this works, I use a spacer, a 1x1, whatever these are. Spacer, cut them up. So when the seeds come up, you don't have one flat sitting on another. And you might have a few that get bump into the wood, but you can move it right over the ridges. But I use these trays. This is a peat perlite germination mix. The Japanese maple seedlings are underneath here. I'm not going to dig them up for you, but I cover them up about a ½ inch, and then they go in. These have been planted. These have been in the label. It sort of should label everything. These went in, let's see, 48-hour soak. I put it down exactly how long I soaked it. They were sown 11/2/24. They're in a tub of Dirrs, and we're the Dirrs. And we will look forward to seed germination sometime in, as I mentioned, April or May of next year. So I'll carefully tuck this back in, and I can check them. And the thing it is that the water condenses on the bottom of the lid, and you can probably see that. So you really don't have to water them that much. It's kind of a self-contained unit. I'd say once every 2 weeks, take a look, and if it does, get a little sprinkling can, and don't overwater them. And put your lid back on, and patiently wait until spring. And you'll probably have more Japanese maple seedlings than you want, but you can use them. Give them to your friends. You can graft with them. You can grow them yourself. You can start your own little enterprise selling Japanese maples, which when you go to the garden center, you almost have a coronary arrest looking at the prices. I mean, it's not crazy. It takes some energy to graft these and grow them and know what you're doing. But I'm not sure $129 for a Japanese maple in a 3-gallon can isn't a bit too high. This is another way to handle Japanese maple seed. In fact, this is a way to handle any seed. Likewise, for the containers I just showed you, I use abelias. We use abelias. We use Acer bergeranum, Acer saccharum, which is sugar maple. But this is just a plastic bag from, I don't know where Bonnie got it, maybe wherever. And I use sand. I soaked the seed again, and if you look, I got all the data down there, I think, except what's collected. I got the various cultivars written on the bag. Acer palmatum mixed with 3 month warm, 3 month cold. I just leave them outside. I set them right on the side of that tub, let nature do its thing. And what you'll see, again, in that, let's say March, April, typically April, May period, you'll see little root radicals popping out. Once you see that, you clear out the bag, you sow the seed like you would normally, and you're off and running. So if you don't have room for a big tub, or you don't want to fool with something on that kind of scale, just get yourself a plastic bag, get yourself some play sand. Any kind of sand's fine. You don't want it too moist. Put your seed in, mix it up thoroughly, and ideally you could put it in the refrigerator if you want to. But for maples, particularly Japanese maples, usually a warm period, a somewhat warm period, followed by a cold period. And people often recommend 3 months warm, 3 months cold. I find that's not always true, but that's a pretty good prescription for success. So that's just sort of the plastic bag method of germinating many seeds, and maples are perfectly fit for this kind of propagation. This is a rare plant that very few people know. It's called Lindera salicifolia. It's a narrow leaf spice bush. Flowers are yellow. They're not really fragrant. But what makes this unique, it's a big spreading shrub, probably 10 to 15 feet tall, is that it has anywhere from yellow to orange to red fall color. The leaves persist through the winter in a dried kind of an ashy brown color, and they're usually pushed off by the new growth in spring. But it'd be a great free-flowing kind of barrier plant or screen. You don't want to prune this into a hedge or anything. And I've actually chainsawed this thing down once, maybe twice, and it keeps coming back. But Lindera angustifolia, narrow leaf spice bush, is not, it almost looks evergreen to some degree. It holds its leaves that long, but for fall color and beautiful summer, what's I call a rich green summer color. Leaf almost reminds of Magnolia virginiana with a silver underside and a minty green upper surface. So a good plant for screening. It'll grow in shade and it'll grow in full sun. Just kind of panning through the woods. We're under black cherries, we're under persimmons, we're under pine trees, we're under white oaks, and you can see I kind of underplanted with Japanese maples, and many of these are just everyday seedlings. There's nothing special about them. So you get a range of growth habits and fall color. And we were extremely dry this year, especially in October, and they held up well. I mean, they persisted, and almost amazingly so. So again, I'm overwhelming it to some degree. But also in here are red buckeyes, bottlebrush buckeyes, Elysium, which is one of the annuses. So I got evergreen, I got deciduous, I got early spring bloom. We have pretty early emerging foliage on the buckeyes, particularly on the red buckeye. And it even looks good as we're going into fall. And it's pretty much let the leaves fall, rake them up, and almost like nature takes care of itself in here without a lot of extracurricular maintenance. Okay, this is kind of the last stop on this fall color parade. Well, there might be one more, one more as I look past Katie. But this is American beech, Ficus grandifolia. These were $1 seedlings planted about 10 years ago. We planted them on about 10-foot centers, and the idea was to produce a screen, and you know, it really worked. Again, fall color, I love the color. You get that shiny brown, you get yellow, you get gold, and you get almost pure brown all at the same time. So these are all seedlings, and I'll get out of the way and Katie can take a shot down. But behind me is a pecan orchard, and I kind of wanted to screen it, and I think we did a pretty good job on it. But the foliage holds for a long time, so you really get maximum benefit from the tardily, what should I say, dehiscent leaves or falling leaves. So American beech, Ficus grandifolia, one of my favorite native trees. This is, I always say, I used to tell my class, the last plant, but it never was the last plant. And for this video, this is kind of like the same thing. So we'll call this the last fall coloring tree that we discussed today. This is Acer truncatum, called the purple blow, or Shantung maple. Again, we'll spell those for you when we get the video up. But this one called, I think it's Fire Dragon, and I never thought much of it initially, but consistently it has the most brilliant red fall color. And Acer truncatum is an interesting species, again, native to China, and it's extremely cold hardy, from Iowa to Minnesota to Maine, drought tolerant into southwestern United States, Oklahoma. It's one of the more adaptable trees, and it's not very well known. There's a couple of cultivars, one called, I think it's, well, this is the one I know. There's one called Main Street. I was trying to think of the Main Street, and this is Fire Dragon. Fire Dragon has great fall color. It's excellent red. It's a smaller tree. You're looking at 15 to 30 feet tall, round-headed, and if you're looking for something that gives you a good shiny dark green summer foliage, no disease, no insect problems, and then just a burst of good fall color, this is certainly one worth considering. Acer truncatum, Fire Dragon, also Main Street is excellent. That came out of a selection out of Worthington Farms in North Carolina, and I have that in the garden too. We walked by that today. You can't get everything in a mini video, but it seems like we pretty much tried. So thank you for watching. This is, I don't know how we're going to put this together to kind of shorten it up a little bit, but kind of a snippet of the garden. There's other things that have come. There'll be other things are come and gone. There'll be other things that'll come a little later, but this was a pretty nice walk for both Katie and I on our Thanksgiving Day. So as I said, we're blessed. We thank you for paying us somewhat attention. These aren't professional things. They're meant to hopefully educate, maybe inspire a bit, and let you garden in a more efficient and more effective and more beautiful way. Thank you.